Hello, and welcome to A Take on the Academy. I'm your host, Matthew Sprosty, and today, Jesus, it's a doozy. To open this episode, let me be clear. I call my friends and connections, and I look for guests with either a vast knowledge of cinematic history, somebody who watches everything under the sun, or somebody that will do the homework with me. I then ask that person, is there an Oscar moment you would like to discuss, or do you want to look at a list of things that I have? I asked a former guest of the show, somebody whose knowledge in things makes me feel somewhat small. I asked him what he wanted to talk about, and he went, I don't think Lord of the Rings deserved Best Picture. My reaction at first was, no fucking way. No fucking way in my first season doing this alone was I going to go after the film that artisan and everyman alike is fine with, could stomach this other podcaster I respected and admired so much, punching baby Jesus in the face, and I, sitting there, just had to listen to the Savior and toddler Christ cry. But then I thought about it. 1, I want to take on the Academy to be a podcast that has difficult conversations. I've always wanted a debate show. I don't want any conversation to be deemed unworthy to have. I love challenging conversations. I'm obsessed with them. I live for them. I love getting to that point in them where you look at the other person in the eye and realize they're not good at talking about the hard stuff. This is my shit right here. So 2, if we agree that the trilogy of Lord of the Rings is maybe one of the best trilogies ever made, which I don't even know his thoughts on that yet, we'll get to that question, but if we could open the conversation by saying Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings should have been given an honorary Oscar, much like Charlie Chaplin received a special Oscar back at the first Oscars for The Circus for acting, writing, directing, and producing, they gave him a special Oscar to let other people have a slice of the pie. And maybe almost 80 years later, they should have done the same for Peter Jackson. So here's the conversation. In 2003, the Academy Award for Best Picture went to The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. It was a monumental win. 11 Oscars, a clean sweep, and a moment of triumph, not just for the film itself, but for the entire trilogy. And here's the thing, dear listener. Did Return of the King win Best Picture because it was the best movie of 2003? Or did it win because the Academy was honoring a cultural event, the rare cinematic trilogy that maintained artistic integrity, critical acclaim, and massive audience love from start to finish? And let's be clear, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of the greatest achievements in modern cinema. It changed blockbuster filmmaking, raised the bar for visual effects and production design, and proved that literary fantasy could be both commercially viable and emotionally resonant. But Return of the King, as a standalone film, is arguably not even the strongest installment of the trilogy. It's bloated. It's overlong. Its runtime is 201 minutes, the extended edition 263 minutes, and it benefits immensely from the groundwork laid by the first 2 films. And that's where we come in. Today, we're looking back at the year 2003 with fresh eyes. I'll be joined by 2 guests, Kyle from I Know Movies and You Don't, and Andy, a proud everyman who's done the homework, and we'll be examining what really defined that cinematic year. Each of us will present a top 5, our revised Best Picture nominees, and from those, a true best winner will rise, whether it be Return of the King or not. Before we get to you, Kyle, who introduced this question to the show, I'm very much interested to talk with Andy because Andy is a relative of Lee's. And I'm very happy he decided to come on today's episode because my first thought to Kyle's proposition was, oh, Lee would fucking hate this. And secondly, I wonder if this is one that Andy would come on. And you said yes. So first, hello. And secondly, are you excited to talk about this?
I am. So obviously Lee is my brother-in-law, so I see him pretty regularly. So when I mentioned I was coming on, he's like, oh, what are you taking away? And I said, well, I didn't choose the episode. I just went with what Spro sent me, and it's Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. He's like, oh, I feel like that's personal. And I was like, I don't think it is. And I didn't know the backstory behind it. Now I'm finding out it's not. Kyle suggested it. He definitely is a fan of the film, and I had his thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do not think we would be talking about it today if he hadn't took it as lead, but I was like, hey, here we go. Well, this brings us to Kyle. Kyle, I harbor you no ill will, man, but for our audience members who might, like Lee, have a problem with today's episode, I channel their anger to say, what the fuck?
Yeah, what
What's
the
your
fuck?
problem,
I
man?
know.
Can't we just have amazing things with hobbits and wizards and orcs and owls? Like, what's...
Man, and you will find no bigger defender of Peter Jackson than me. I love Peter Jackson. In fact, he's one of my heroes. I saw his ramshackle B movie. You could even say D movie gore fest from like Brain Dead, Meet the Feebles, and Bad Taste. Very early on in life. My favorite movie of his is Heavenly Creatures. I think that combines everything that he's able to do, and it's a hard watch. It's a hard story, but he is fantastic. He's a fantastic filmmaker. He has such an imagination. He has such a dedication. And you see that in Lord of the Rings. I was at the prime age with Lord of the Rings, and it is a nostalgic piece for me. It's a nostalgic piece for the cinema going experience. It's a nostalgic piece to see it in completion. My wife has extended edition DVDs that she's never going to give away, and I have my own set of extended edition DVDs that we're never going to give away. So we have two sets of the same thing. I brought this question because and I'm glad you put it in your opening, because look, I'm up for punching babies. Like, I'm up for taking on I'm willing to be sacrilegious, the sacred, what people deem untouchable. I'm willing to take it on because I think there's always a question, because and it's always a question worth asking, because 20 years later, it might have moved, but maybe it hasn't. And it's a worthy conversation to have, to see how things have aged, what influence it has had for the better and for the worse. I will say some of the things that it has done for digital effects was great. And then now we have something called the Weta effect that has made immensely negative impacts on like the visualization and our processing of other worlds. And it's a far cry from the blend of organic and special effects that this originally was. So I do love The Lord of the Rings, but I will come out and say Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite of the three. I think it is the best of the three. And as it continues, it again successfully uses the foundation it has. It successfully uses the characters and the fulfillment of the long journey of good versus evil. It's very much laid out simplistically, and you can digest it, you can understand it. It's a wonderful thing, but I think Return of the King is bloated. I think it is disorganized, partly because of the adaptation choices. They moved things around from the books. We won't. I don't think we need to get too detailed into that, but I do think it suffers from an elongated bloat, and it's exhausting to revisit often, especially the last half hour. I don't think has aged very well at all in summarizing the series, bringing it to an end. The fact that they don't do the Shire, they take that completely out, and it's only because, and that was a personal thing, Peter Jackson just didn't like it. And so I think it changes up what the movie, what the core story ultimately was about, and about how you cannot be separated from the world. It's always going to find its way to you, but you have to be able to face it. And so it changes up the themes. It changes up some of the ideas. I think it's still wonderful. I mean, you take it back, and I know I'm prattling on. I'm going to wrap it up here. Sorry, I'm just talking because you've given me the chance. I think if you look at back in the day, when the Academy called it best production, I think you have quite an argument to say this was the absolute best production that year. Although I do kind of sway towards Master and Commander. Maybe that's giving away maybe some of my 5 later on, because I also think that's a magnificent production. But when we're talking about picture, it's evolved. It's evolved over time. And even though it's an amazing epic of wonderful emotional proportions, I don't think Return of the King has aged entirely well. And so as a best picture winner, but I like how you've presented it. Is it an achievement in cinema history? Absolutely.
Andy, what are your thoughts on Lord of the Rings?
So I want to ask a question real quick first, because Kyle, you mentioned how you have the different versions on DVD and all this. I'm guessing this movie was something the two of you saw in theaters when it came out. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And I can tell you that I didn't like Return of the King's ending, that last 30 minutes, because I had to pee really
Oh my
badly.
gosh, it already felt like a long 30 minutes. And then if you're holding that in,
and they kept fading out, so I was like, oh, I'm about to be able to go to the bathroom. And then I was like, oh,
then you have to suffer through it. He's like, Gandalf?
Yeah, that was one of the notes I had when watching it was extended ending fatigue. Like I just felt exhausted after it. But this actually, so these came out one after another each year, right? 2001, 2002, 2003. And just to show my age, I mean, I was in a senior year of high school, freshman year, and sophomore year of college. And I don't know, I was doing other things. I didn't see any of these originally in the theaters. And,
wow. Really?
Yeah, it was, it just wasn't where I was at the time. I was more into going to concerts and like I would rent movies, but like you're not going to sit through one of those on a date, maybe. I don't know. So it wasn't until I vividly remember it. I had to go back east. I have family in New Hampshire for a funeral, actually. And we were staying in the same house with my sister and her husband, who was a big fan of Lord of the Rings. And this my grandparents' house. There was no cable or anything like that. We were staying there for a few days. And so he brought a bunch of DVDs, and that's where I watched Fellowship of the Ring. It wasn't like I was against seeing it. Just was one of those things that back in the day when you had cable, you're not going to hop in a movie like that in the middle of it, right? And then sit through commercial breaks. So I started watching Fellowship of the Rings then, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is good. Like, why didn't I watch this sooner? But by that point, the other ones were all out, right? So when I got back, the girl I was dating at the time had seen them all, and I was like, I had never seen these, and this is really good. So we went over to Blockbuster and spent the weekend watching all three. I rewatched the first one and watched the second two. So I didn't have that experience of like I was all hyped up for it, and then I saw it there. So like I really saw it after the fact. I had seen Meet the Feebles and Brain Dead before I had seen this because that was the day where you could get those for like $2.99 at a GameStop and go through them. So that was my only knowledge of Peter Jackson, which obviously this was very different from that. But yeah, I overall I thought I liked it a lot. I wasn't expecting to like it as much. I didn't read The Hobbit in school, so I hadn't read any of the books. But I will say my favorite was the second one, not actually the third one. So that one was my favorite. Was it Grima Wormtongue? Was I thought like a really fun
Brad
character.
Dourif. Oh, I love Brad Dourif. Yeah,
really fun character in that one. You really peel back more of Gollum, Smeagol. But like to what you're saying is it builds on top of the other. Where when you're talking about Best Picture, like if you watch this one on its own, and you hadn't watched the other two, you have to be lost, right? Like there's so much it's built on. Where we have the list in front of us of these other ones. I didn't feel that way about any of the other ones. So I get what you're saying about like should it have an honorary one? Perhaps because like I think as a standalone, it's not as strong as a standalone as some of the other options on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like you said The Two Towers. The Two Towers is, I think that was my favorite film when my life was more chaotic. And as I like grow older and just want peace, like I just want to be at the Shire and I just want to return to the Shire. And
I mean, I gotta say that Helm's Deep sequence is, I think, the best action set piece any of the three have. It is exceptionally well done, exceptionally organized. You know where everybody is. It orients you incredibly well. And to have that feat, it's pretty thrilling. It's a pretty thrilling, and then to have this like Jesus Christ return of Gandalf, like it's manipulative. Obviously, it gets you your emotions swelling, but I mean, it's very well done.
And I don't want to be a hypocrite because I do this too. With Dune and everything like that, I was like, they're not going to reward Dune because it's not finished yet. Like they can't reward the first movie until they see if he's going to pull it off in like the second or third movies. So I completely understand what the Academy Awards were doing because in my mind, it's Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite, and they weren't going to reward that. And The Two Towers equally as good, and then Return of the King equally as good, but it's all about the standalone film. And then it's kind of like, well, what do you do at that point? Do you make up a whole new award? Like they have completed their trilogy, they have completed their film run. Was that all good?
Well, they gave Godfather 2 an Oscar, and they didn't see what was going to happen in Godfather 3.
It's true.
Sorry, just trying to think of a bad sequel where the one before it won an Oscar.
Oh yeah, no,
the series won 2 Best Pictures, and then the third got nominated though. It got nominated.
Yeah.
And I will say, I don't think I ever thought about this, so I'm glad that you brought this to us, Kyle, because I believe that I was on the hype train in 2003. Like I was when they were sweeping the Academy Awards, I was like, yes. Yes, keep it coming. That was amazing of a trilogy.
I mean, and it's hard to argue with any of the awards. I mean, it won all like the technical achievements. It won editing, like cinematography, production design. I mean, it is a sensational production. And Peter Jackson got director. I'm not taking away his director, by the way. I'm just talking about because as a military leader and orchestrating all of that production, he is sensational, and he created something. And the fact that it has changed the language of blockbuster cinema and the scope and the scale and the clarity it has, that he was able to do this as almost an independent filmmaker, that he really had no business doing this scale, this project, and yet he tackled it as an independent artist. And you will find no bigger defender of Peter Jackson than me. I think he is sensational, and I think it's a worthy achievement to be recognized. But the hype train of the Best Picture, I don't know. There's something about picture that I think has evolved, like I said before. I think it's a different conversation than production. I think it's something about what the movie says of its time, what it encapsulates of its time. I think Return of the King is part of that conversation, but then there are some that we're going to be talking about today that I think have aged magnificently. They're great pieces of art and human exploration, and some are fables and some are gritty and real. And I find and this is why I do it, is because now we're going to have a conversation about the whole year rather than what won Best Picture that year. Oh, that's all? What got nominated that year? It goes beyond those frames, and that's why I kind of force these uncomfortable conversations, even though I know everyone listening to your show is saying this guy's a fucking idiot.
Especially Lee.
Especially Lee, who I'm going to be on his new show, that he's doing, and so he'll just tell it to my face.
I do want to ask though, because a rarity of a Best Picture nomination, this film received no acting nominations. If you could give one out, who would you give it to?
For Return?
For Return of the King.
Specifically, whose movie is it? Oh my gosh. I'm going to forget his name, but I totally know my answer. Andy, if you have one quicker than I do, I'm going to look up the cast real quick because I know who it is.
It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe a supporting for my guy Rudy, Sean Astin.
He's on the top of my list because his emotional journey was what I was.
Yeah, the part with when he gets kicked out and comes back, like okay. he's. I think he's phenomenal. I mean, that's probably the best thing I've seen Sean Astin in.
Did Astin get nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Two Towers?
Hold on,
because I know Ian McKellen got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Fellowship of the Ring, and I don't think he did, and so I would be on the Sean Astin train as well. I think he is the heart of the movie, especially the Two Towers, and then carries on into Return of the King. He literally carries Frodo to his destination. And without him, really, as a character, Frodo doesn't succeed. And so I would be on that train, but Bernard Hill as Theoden, I think he has quite a performance in Return of the King. In particular, he does get the Braveheart speech, like he gets to lead his men, and he gets his death. And there's something about that, about him coming to the aid of those who didn't come to his, and getting over his ego, getting over his pride. And you get to watch that through the, briefly as a side character. And so as a supporting actor, and it's hard to say any lead shines in these movies. They are an ensemble cast. I would say Bernard Hill, I would advocate for.
Anything else before we move on?
No.
We have dissected Return of the King. But here's the thing. 2003 didn't happen in a vacuum. While Frodo and Sam were climbing Mount Doom, a lot of other films were out there telling bold stories, pushing the boundaries of cinema, and in some cases, flying completely under the Academy's radar. So now let's open it up. We're going to look at the films of 2003, 7 films in particular. Our list is a list of films that my guests and I have created out of what we remember from the year or any other award shows or festivals. And there were 21 films on the A list for this episode. The list we're going to be talking about today only 7. So the films we aren't going to be talking about, and if you guys remember anything that you want to even mention about these, you may. Cold Mountain, Shattered Glass, City of God, Elephant, American Splendor, Old Boy, Monster, 13, The Fog of War, Capturing the Freedmans, Dogville, The Best of Youth, and Mystic River.
Well, I guess I'll just jump in. There are a few movies that are quite exceptional, but I'm going to save a little bit of what I want to say about Fog of War because I know you want to have a documentary conversation later on. So I'll save that and Capturing the Freedmans. Both movies I love. I think they're fantastic documentaries. And so when we talk about documentary later on, I want to bring those up. There's one in particular that you mentioned, and I'm trying to remember exactly. Well, Old Boy. I mean, Old Boy is sensational, and it is, and what really is, I think, the letdown, and I think why we're not going to be talking about it is because there's another Vengeance movie this year that I think is legitimately better, and it's hard because they are two exceptional pieces that are dissecting it in very similar ways, but one is more genre heavy and the other is thematically heavy. And Old Boy is a difficult pill to swallow, and but it is a sensational movie. It is done by the Park Chan-wook, I would say, is South Korea's Kubrick. I mean, he is just as cynical, he is just as inventive, and it's a great movie. And so I want to put that out there because just because we're not going to talk about it doesn't mean it's not in the conversation. Like you just said, there's a lot of A-list movies that are not going to necessarily be talked about. And
before you move on from that one, I do want to say that Old Boy, I thought looking at the list before I even diving into this episode, I was like, well, Old Boy is probably going to go up there. You know, like I remember watching it once, loving it, absolutely hating the fact that America was going to remake it with Josh Brolin. I was like, this is the movie that we should just hold on a pedestal and be like, this is what other countries can do. Let's not like mimic it and try to make it our own. The twist within it is heartbreaking, but in the same instance has been the same twist since Greek tragedy days. Yeah. So I thought it was going to make my list. And then as I was watching more and more films, I was like, man, Kyle was right. This is a really good year in film.
It is really good. And and Andy, I don't know if you have thoughts on Old Boy, because I don't want to move on too quick because there's another foreign movie you mentioned that I wanted to talk.
Nothing more than what you guys have said. The one thing I'll add is like American Splendor. I feel like I can't not be biased on it because it was filmed in Cleveland and Lakewood, where I live in Lakewood, right next to Cleveland. So that's one I've always enjoyed, but I think like I'm biased towards it.
It's hard, right? There's a lot of great movies that year, and I'll tell you, I do lists on my like letterbox. It's in my top 10 for that year. I think it's in like number 9 or 10. I love American Splendor. I think it's a fantastic comic book adaptation. I think it's wonderfully acted. I think if we were doing acting nominations, I think we'd be glorifying it across the board. But and as a picture, I do think it's excellent.
I just like how it combined all the different media, like it combined real interviews, reenactments, animation, so the whole thing was very creative.
Yeah, structurally very interesting.
I didn't realize it was filmed in Lakewood. I thought it was like Collinwood. Or maybe I was just thinking of Welcome to Collinwood.
Yeah, parts of it were filmed in Lakewood, just like street shots and things like that. There's one street in Lakewood that, here in Lakewood, like usually you have a really tiny front yard and a less tiny backyard. And there's one street that's the reverse, where there's actually front yards. And I feel like that street's by the library is shut down for filming all the time. So like it's used in it at one point too. But yeah, no, part of it was filmed here in Lakewood. The other thing I'll say is I did before like we got the list of everything we're going to talk about, I did rewatch Mystic River because it was actually nominated, and I'm perfectly okay about not talking about that today.
I'm interested in both your thoughts because I really like Mystic River. Now I don't think it would make my 5, but I really like it. I'm not
saying it was a bad movie. Compared to the other stuff that we watched, it wasn't quite there.
Sure. Oh, I want to hear Spro because I think it has something to do with adaptation, right?
It does have Dennis Lehane is one of my favorite novelists, and I love all of his work. He did Shuttered Island, he did Mystic River, and then he did a complete Kenzie Gennaro detective series that Ben Affleck actually adapted the fourth book in the series, which became Gone Baby Gone. There's a book called The Given Day. It's all pretty much Boston set, and it's all very visceral. And I love that about him. What I don't like about the adaptation is Clint Eastwood. I don't like, and even the opening of it and using people that aren't strong actors like the kids are in the opening, it immediately puts me on my edge and being like, well, what else do I have to like? And then I feel like some of the people do really good with the Boston accents and some people are very spotty with the Boston accents. And then there's something about if they just talk to each other,
right?
The whole problem is moot. Like if they just say like, I didn't do that.
They're so vague. It's
like it's manipulative vagueness. Like it's not like
Tim Robbins' character, especially,
and it's not necessarily like I think it's probably my second pet peeve of movies. My first pet peeve is hesitation. When they do hesitation in a moment just to make either like the bad guy have a good line or he's going to hesitate right here so an act of God can happen and save them in that moment. I feel like Mystic River, I just feel like Clint Eastwood's direction took probably a good piece of work. And a lot of people make fun of Sean Penn's acting in that moment. I don't have a problem with it. He loves his daughter and just found out like she is dead, and he is a kind of monster of a man that can do whatever he wants, and his heart just broke. Like, so the fact that he's bellowing, is that my daughter in there, and he is fighting back against 20 cops, I like that moment. I like that scene. That's, to me, it's just kind of Clint's work that really.
What did you think about the adaptation that ended up being Gone Baby Gone?
I love Gone Baby Gone. I think Ben Affleck is a much better director than he is an actor. I think
that's easy to say.
Casey Affleck was the lead in that, correct?
Yeah. When he first came out, they're like, we're going to do Gone Baby Gone. I was like, oh man, Darkness Take My Hand was a better novel. I would have rather seen that, or just seen like the entire thing. But like we're talking about with Return of the King as a standalone film, it works. It's, even though it's the fourth of the series, all the characterization right off the bat. You don't have to do the homework to go see that film. So I think that was really good. And I will say, I think I liked Shutter Island more than I like the adaptation of that, the novel of it, more than the adaptation.
Yeah, I don't really care for Scorsese's Shutter Island, but that's a personal thing.
I've already taken shots at Scorsese, so
yeah. I love Scorsese. I love Scorsese more than Eastwood.
But there was less critiques of Boston accents in that one.
Yeah, The Departed.
Yeah. And I was just curious because I wasn't going to force a point to talk about a movie that wasn't going to even make my five. So it was like okay, all right. It's just interesting because I don't often hear a lot of negativity about it. I hear that it's very good. I liked it, but they put it to the side, but not like you have a problem with it like you do. And I can see why. Eastwood's direction is, if he's working with lesser talent, it's very obvious they can't, because he's only doing 1, 2, maybe 3 takes. And if they're just not hitting it, he's just doing it for efficiency's sake. And you will start to lose a bit of its totality and in quality, and those sections are very obvious.
Yeah, he's famous for coming in under budget and on schedule, so yeah, good for him. But that was a really good piece of work that he.
They don't give out awards for that, right? So
no, they just keep giving him more movies because they're like, okay, well, he came under budget and the movie made money. His movies do make money. And so they keep giving him work, and he's going to be making another one. He's like 95, 96 years old. It's crazy.
I remember I picked up my daughter one time it was the COVID year, but I had to take her. They did in-person standardized testing. And when I picked her up, I said, how do you think you did on the test? She's like, I was the first one done. I'm like, that's not necessarily a good thing, Tegan.
I was going to say I was angry with you for watching Capturing the Freedmans and having a really rough Saturday night.
Have you seen Dear Zachary?
Yes. Oh, is that the same guy?
No, I'm just saying
Okay.
it's worse.
Yeah, that is where.
Like as they uncover like what his job was and like what he was doing, you're like, oh no, this is just awful.
And as an educator myself, I was like, "There's no, he didn't do it." You know, like I was fighting it the entire time.
It's like impossible. You know, you're like, it's so radical and it's so weird. Like, how could it have ever happened? And then you start to go, oh, yeah, maybe it did.
Yeah, nobody's going to admit to that. You know, like, well, I'm just going to admit to it and just get this on with. I was like, no, you will have to kill me to say that I did anything against.
I guess we could talk about it now since you brought it up, because that movie is fascinating, because even by the end, you could go back and forth. You're like, wait, did he do it? Did he not do it? You had testimonials of people who had these massive descriptions, but you're like, can I trust those people? Like, do I know? It seemed as though they were making it up and that they were improvising, and they were like, well, yeah, and like the details, and then they would have follow-up questions. They really wouldn't have details following it up. They would be like, oh yeah, I did say that. Well, it was like this, and this is how it happened. And then you'd get people who are like, well, it didn't happen. I was there all the time. And then you're still like, wait, I don't know. The ambiguity of that movie is haunting.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing in a lot of documentaries today, and the Netflix model of it all, is that they want to give you the answer. They want you to walk away totally understanding what happened and why it happened and break it down as though it's like a court case. And in that movie, it is kind of court-like, but you cannot necessarily believe the lawyer and his point of view, the son and what he's saying. You're like, oh man, I can't trust anything. And that's a really difficult pill to swallow with the idea of society and recollection and testimony and the court system. That's a haunting movie. That movie will haunt you.
Yeah, we're talking about capturing the Freedmans. I just want to, because if any audience member wants to get their mind fucked, I went and like I watched it on a Saturday night. Sunday, I went over to my mom's house and gave her an extra hug just because they were so awful to their mom in that movie.
So awful.
And she, oh my gosh, did you watch this one, Andy?
I did not, but I'm going to now.
I think it's on Max.
It's on Max. Yeah.
Okay, good.
You gotta watch it.
You don't have to watch it.
You gotta watch it.
The other, I mean, while we're loosely talking, Elephant is one that I thought was going to make my top 5, just because I was actually on set recently talking to another actor who wanted kind of the same thing pitched. He was like, I don't think we have that Columbine movie. School shootings is an epidemic in this country. We all know about it. Doesn't matter which side you fall on. Both sides of the party aisle are talking about it, just in different ways, that school shootings are a problem. And I think Elephant, as far as all of them out there, like The Fallout is one that comes up to mind. Basketball Diaries was pre-Columbine, but I think Elephant to me is currently the number 1 school shooting movie, and how he kind of just does it with a very light touch, and he ends it in a way that leaves it open to more discussion. It's not necessarily a movie that says this was the problem. It has nothing to do with access to guns. It doesn't have anything to do with mental health. It doesn't have anything to do with bullying. It just has to do with how kids are in school on a daily basis. And then the ones that go off the rails and do horrible things. It doesn't tell you how to stop it. It just tells you this is what's happening currently on a day-to-day basis. And I think that to me is intriguing. It just was a little too raw for me to put it in for a recommendation for this episode.
It's a difficult movie, and similar to, and I think maybe you're even more positive on it than a movie you aren't positive on from last year as Zone of Interest, is that kind of just peering into something rudimentary, quotidian. It's just bypassing you, and you start to get enmeshed in it, and then once the implications of what you are currently part of have their ramifications and their consequences, it's too late. And that's the genius of that movie. It's a movie I really balked at when I first saw it. I had a hard time with that movie, and I had a hard time digesting it. I couldn't believe that he would fixate and focus on these kinds of characters, and I thought that maybe he was trying to explain them away. And so, and that's not what he's doing. Gus Van Sant, I think his touch is so delicate that it almost bends into that, but that's not what he's doing. He is trying to examine it from a very, a very realistic, empathetic lens about what is the reality of this situation. And it's a very mature look at what is a problem that we still have a very difficult time really understanding, really putting a finger on the pulse of why it's happening so consistently, why it's solely a American illness, why it's solely a white male illness. Like, what is going on in the culture, the system that is procuring these outcomes? And Elephant gets close. It doesn't have an answer, but it really has it really has a magnifying glass on it. I do think it is an excellent film. It's just a difficult one to watch.
Andy, as the father in the room, how do you feel about these sexual abuse against children movies? And
I mean, I think if you're a human, they're tough to watch either way, whether you have kids or not. So, but what Kyle's saying, it does bring, and both of you are saying, it brings awareness to it without like saying this is how you should feel one way or the other, right? It's just telling the story. And whereas it's hard to watch, I think the more things out like that, the better. So I think that's where this Elephant was a good film, right? Because it doesn't feel exploitative.
No.
So, but I guess, yeah, like like how many bad movies are put out on other subjects, right? So like if everyone tried to do it, you would have that quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's also not going to make $100 million. Like people aren't going to flock to the movie theaters to watch a difficult subject.
Another movie from that list, and it's one for foreign language, and I think a lot of people would be surprised that it's not in a top 5 consideration, is City of God, which is excellent. It's a great movie. Fernando Meirelles is a great filmmaker. That movie was pretty sensational when I first saw it. I think when I started a blog in college, I did like my favorite top 10 movies of each year, and 2003 definitely had City of God on it at that point, and it's because it rocked me, and it's a movie that will rock you. It's like the Brazilian Goodfellas, like if I had to like use that kind of moniker. I don't think it has held up in my standard and for what I get out of movies and how I have aged into what I get out of movies, but I do think it's a sensational production. It's a great movie, and should be just have a shout out.
Definitely. It actually was nominated for 4 Oscars. Directing, editing. Just trying to think of not foreign film. Got my handy dandy little Oscar book here.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, this one was another one that I thought was going to make. I mean, Elephant, like there was a lot on this list that I was like, ooh, these are going to be the ones. And then they didn't end up being.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the 7?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about our 7. And then Return of the King is still in the conversation. So it's not like we're saying all 7 of these is better. But we'll take them one by one, give each film its moment. And by the end of the episode, each of us will share our own revised top 5, just a reminder, and then fresh slate of Best Picture nominees. So Seabiscuit, a film I did not watch until this episode. And as I am watching it, look, it's a feel-good underdog sports film. I thought it was all going to be about the horse. The horse doesn't even come in until about 45 minutes into the film. It is history told, and I've always been, if I can create the college course, I do want to tell history through film and find films that I think really show an era that I don't know and show that era in a way that I can experience almost in like virtual reality. And this one told me the American Depression in a way that, it was a little glitzy glammy. You're looking at it kind of from the top. But in the same instance, it resonated with me. I was like, oh, okay, like I'm feeling this. I'm understanding this period drama with these historical themes and strong performances. I'm liking Tobey Maguire in it. Like Jeff Bridges, who usually to me plays similar characters, kind of disappeared in this role for me. I'm blanking on Chris Cooper. I almost said Gary Cooper. Chris Cooper as the horse trainer. I think everything is put together so well and meticulously. And then I will tell you, that there is maybe 4-sentence monologue by Tobey Maguire at the end that made me want to punch myself in the stomach. I was like, holy shit, that is the worst way to end this film. And I almost took it out of the top 5, but I was like, you know what? I really appreciated this movie. I think I hated it because of its title and never went to go see it. Seabiscuit, I know it's the name of the horse. It's a horrible name. It rises no emotions in me. But as far as
no Secretariat, right?
No. What was the enemy horse's name in it? The Admiral?
War Admiral.
War Admiral.
Yeah.
Awesome. Even War Horse, which I will say War Horse is one of my favorite Broadway plays, but I didn't like the movie. I liked Seabiscuit more than I liked War Horse. And I just wanted to talk about it and say this was a much better film than I was expecting.
Yeah, same. Better than expected. I didn't have the highest expectations, even though going into it, I knew it was well received. Not a big horse racing guy. I think you touched on it. It's kind of a predictable sports arc, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's got its own little curves in it, but the overall arc is pretty similar. You know, I obviously the way it links to the Depression overall, like as a symbolism for that, it is really good. And it's David versus Goliath story with the rival horse and everything there. But looking at it compared to some of the other films we're going to talk about, I just like visually compared to some of these other ones, just I don't think it's as innovative as some of the ones that I hadn't seen that you put on the list here that we're going to talk about. So I thought, like, obviously you're not going to do anything too crazy with doing a period piece, but I was impressed with it, but I don't think it enters the conversation for dethroning Return of the King in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's an uneven movie. I think some of the things that you've spoken about it in a positivity are legitimate, because structurally very, very interesting. That elongated, protracted 45-minute opening, I remember being a bit confused, when I first saw it, but it wasn't a confusion where I immediately disregarded what they were doing, but they were bringing me into time. They were bringing me into this reverence it has for its story, its time period, and so I like pieces of the movie. I like that the movie has a bit of majesty to it, a majesty for the story, a majesty for the time. But ultimately it's too long. It delves into a more formulaic structure that I think betrays some of the more interesting investments that it wants to do. But I think that it works very well as a kind of standard prestige cinema experience. I do think Tobey Maguire works very well in it. I do remember by the way, I haven't seen it in a long time. It was one I did not rewatch for this show. I like Jeff Bridges. He has a soulfulness when the older he gets, and sometimes they play a little too into that. But this one is a little understated. Chris Cooper is always exceptional. I think he's an incredible actor. And so, yeah, as somebody who watched it and thought it was more than mildly decent at the time, I do recollect a lot of its reverence. Like it's romantic, it's majestic, and I think it for history and for people during that history. And so I think it's an interesting movie.
The sequences of the horse races, I was like, damn, like there's a couple films on this list that I was like, I wish I saw this in the theater. Mm-hmm. And I think even maybe not even 2003, if you re-release Seabiscuit, I think I would go see it again in a theater just to feel the horse's hooves in my back in the seat, because
I did get to see it in the theater, and I think that helped with my recollection, that emotional memory for the movie. I do think that does help with any movie that you see in the theater. I'm not taking away from exploring anything at home. It will have an impact if you're invested in the story, if you put yourself into it. But I think investing the time, going to the theater, it reserves itself in a mindset, in a memory that kind of crystallizes. And so, yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't have to talk about it anymore. I am curious. I want Andy to nominate the next movie that we talk about
Let's go with one that I hadn't seen. Memories of Murder.
This was a Kyle pick. I had not seen it either.
Oh, you guys had you heard of it ever since Parasite? Like ever since he started winning Academy Awards, people started to go back to his work and investigating it.
And I didn't, like I'm forward. Like that's why I love this show, is because it makes me have to go back and check out other works. I will say it won top film prizes in Japan and South Korea. And to me, Bong Joon-ho for Memories of Murder, he's just a master. And you could tell it with this movie. There's just something, his use of suspense, and I want to say that with Elephant too, because you brought up zones of interest, is that there was a suspense to that film just because you know what the subject matter is going to be. And with this film, it just felt like no matter what, people were in danger throughout the entire thing. And you didn't know why, you didn't know where it was going to come from. And even at the end of it, when he leaves it open-ended, you feel like the danger is still out there, which he pulls off. I could feel like there's people that do not like open-ended movies. And for this one, I feel like his message is delivered with a subtle touch of...
Oh, that final scene I thought was amazing.
When he looks at the audience?
Yeah.
What's interesting about the movie is when it was made, and maybe you read up about it because it's based on a real case.
Yeah, no, I did, and it was when it was made, it was still unsolved. Correct.
It was still unsolved, and that's why it hits so like it's like a punch of ambiguity in your face. Like I was like, oh no, what? And I think it works so well for the story, because it comes from the two perspectives and they collide, and it does not give you a satisfying answer, and it leaves you to question the methods used, the chaos that was part of the investigation, and it all leads up to unsatisfaction, and it's powerful. It's a powerful feeling that it leaves you with.
Do you think it's funnier today than it was when it first came out? Like, do you think look at like our hindsight of their methods used and everything, we're kind of like, I know that it was darkly comedic, like that's Parasite is the same way. So I assume that's the director's tone. But if it was unsolved in the day, I feel like I would be more harumph about the police methods used than looking back today and being like, oh, eventually this worked out.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because was it their methods that ended up working out, or was it just more evidence and more time allowed for more distance from it allowed a weird clarity on the question? Who knows? Because honestly, I think it is very critical of the process. It is trying to look at the assumed authority in South Korea and
critiques police corruption, just like the structure of society, like in Korea at that time, which I thought was great. I had not seen this. I saw Parasite. I saw Snowpiercer was the first movie I saw, but with me, I often don't have time to do these deep dives. So when I Googled this, when doing research and saw it was by Bong Joon-ho, I was like, oh, well, like I didn't realize he had movies that went back this far. I thought he was relatively newer. So this was a really pleasant surprise because I went in with zero knowledge, zero expectations. I also have my notes here. It featured the most drop kicks of any film that we watched for this episode. Multiple drop kicks. But even like just from the start, the first scene, like setting the tone, and like it kept you guessing the whole time. Even like I think I wrote down like there was a tractor driver at the beginning that drove over the footprints that they were yelling at. Like that never really tied back in, did it? Like it was just there were so many different things.
Yeah, the chaos of it, the them interrogating people that they think really did it, and they were aggressively interrogating, and it was kind of leading down. There was, what was it during COVID? Making of a Murderer or something that had like
making of a murderer, something like that.
Which was like the same thing, which was the finding somebody with an intellectual disability and trying to coerce them into giving you a confession and then feeling good about yourself that you solved a case. Like it was, and these are the heroes that we're following, like not the heroes, but these are the detectives that we are rooting for, that we also have to kind of question ourselves and being like, but please stop. I don't think this is the guy, so it was but Parasite was the same way. The Parasite, the people that you're following on those are anti-heroes. They're people being parasites on somebody else. So,
which is why it's interesting, because he only really dabbles in that moral complexity in his own language. Whenever he enters the English speaking language, it becomes a little more obvious who is the bad person and who are the good people. I mean, Snowpiercer is literally just, the class warfare just put into a train. And so these people are clearly exploited. They're downtrodden, and they're going to rise up against what is clearly an evil upper class. Okja is the same way. The exploitation, the capitalist exploitation of farming, of massive, meat production. And they put that in a very clear cut moral compass. And I don't know if you all saw Mickey 17, but clearly someone's the bad guy and the other people are not the bad guys. And so it's interesting. I think it makes it easier for him to wrap his head around the English language when he comes over here. It's just to simplify it. But man, in his own country, like Memories of Murder, The Host, if you liked Memories of Murder, you should see Mother, which he did in 2009. It surveys, again, a similar vantage point of someone getting accused of a crime and you're not necessarily sure if they have done it. And those film, Parasite, all those movies have a interesting moral ambiguity to them that I find fascinating. I prefer when he's operating in his language, because I think he's most comfortable expressing the nuances, the subtleties, and the character complexities that he has in mind when he's looking at the world. And I think he's fascinating. Memories of Murder, I think, is a masterpiece.
So you were the one that added it to the list. When did you first see it?
I saw it. It didn't make its way to the States, much like Oldboy. A lot of we can thank Quentin Tarantino for this, as a lot of South Korean cinema did not make its way into American theaters until Quentin Tarantino had a push. And so neither of those movies, even though they came out in 2003, I think they had theater runs in 2005. It took 2 years for them to have, and ever since there's been a kind of casual, from Kim Duk, I think I'm saying his name correctly, but I Saw the Devil would come, the good, the bad, and the weird, and we would start to see more of a South Korean push because of the embrace Quentin Tarantino had of, say, Oldboy and Park Chan-wook and Bong Joon-ho. I saw it in college. I want to say I was able to rent it in 2008, and so when I first saw it, it blew my mind. I saw it around the same time I saw Zodiac, and I think that is also a masterpiece, a serial killer masterpiece, and I think Memories of Murder is on that level. I think that they are very mature, complex portraits of how a society responds to this kind of problem, and what that problem reflects back at the society at large. And I think both are incredible pieces. And
we didn't solve Zodiac.
No, we did not. Still haven't
solved Zodiac. Yeah, so maybe that put it on a cut above. Just to clarify, his mother is not the mother with an exclamation point. Correct.
No, 2009. Yeah, there's so many movies named Mother. Albert Brooks has a fun movie from the 90s called Mother, which I like. I like Albert Brooks. But yeah, Mother, I think it's 2009 it came out. It's very good. I highly recommend it.
I think the natural switchover, because you brought up Quentin Tarantino, we do have a Quentin Tarantino film to talk about for this episode. I was surprised that you were going to pop it on the list. Kill Bill Volume 1.
That I put it on the list? Really?
Well, I put it on.
You don't know my opinion on what my favorite Tarantino movies are.
Well, you gotta give Lee a win if you're taking away Return of the King and put a Tarantino movie on there, right? Can't just rip that Band-Aid off all the way.
I mean, it's a good conversation too, because what we were talking about with Return of the King and Fellowship, and this one was originally one film that he broke into two parts. Mm-hmm. So everybody was clamoring for the second part after they saw the Volume 1, and here it is to talk about.
I mean, I'll leap right into it. I love Kill Bill. I think it's an extraordinary piece, because everyone has their own Tarantino rankings. My favorite 3 Tarantino movies are Jackie Brown, Kill Bill as a whole piece, the whole, cut, and Inglourious Bastards. I think they resemble the 3 stages of what he was going to do. Like Kill Bill is this weird intermediary between what he was doing and then what he's going to do. And he does it so sensationally. It's such a naturalistic impulse of his genre, cinephile-filled brain that just gets transplanted in both of these chapters. And the first one is martial arts, kung fu ridiculousness, and the second one is like a neo-Western. And I think the 2 genres blend and the 2 chapters blend to what is a really sensational dissection about vengeance. And I don't think he gets enough credit for it. I think people focus in on how violent it is, how exploitative it is. It's explosive. It's got fireworks. It's really horrendously violent, but it was to the point where it's mildly hilarious how over the top it all is. I mean, especially the crazy 88s sequence that they forced him to do in black and white because it was just so excessively bloody. I mean, I gotta say, when I saw this in the theater, my mind was blown. It is a sensational fable. It's this glorious bloody fairy tale that he is able to tell us, and the whole Kill Bill journey. And we can get into the part 1 versus part 2, but I think this part 1 is exceptionally done, and it has the shades of nuance and the subtle shades of critique about violence, the cycle of violence that will ultimately come to the ultimate question of whether this journey was worth it or what she was willing to do and be part of it. There's something tragic, there's something sad about being caught up in that cycle of violence. And while the first chapter is a little raucous and a little fun, we have to remember that was the beginning of her journey. And the beginning of that movie is what happens after, and she takes somebody's life in front of their daughter. He presents us in a way for it to be enjoyable. It's quite a wild ride. It's a roller coaster. But when you reflect on the journey and the instances, Quentin Tarantino does a really good job to make you think about why it was presented in the way it was, and then what you're meant to take away from each part. Part 1, I think, sets up really nicely what is the promise of what's going to be on the other end of this, is that it's going to be a little hollow. It's going to be a little empty, even though she's going to maybe get what she wants in the end. She's participated in something that will ultimately be a cycle, and who knows, he's talked about doing a Kill Bill 3 for that very reason, and it's to fulfill that promise. So I think it's a sensational movie for all those reasons, but yeah.
So when you said your favorite 3, was that in the order of how they're your favorite?
Yeah, Jackie Brown is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie.
So, but you said both Kill Bills together, like if you had to separate them.
Yeah, it's tough. They're very different. And it is hard. Right. They're very different in their presentation. I think it's hard because in my brain, I've just put them together. Yeah,
but if they were separated, would another movie sneak in your top 3?
I mean, Pulp Fiction probably, because it is a masterful movie.
I love this movie. This was a great rewatch. I definitely echo what you're saying about like the cycle thing, right? Just especially because when she kills that woman in front of her daughter, that starts a whole new cycle with that character. When we talked about Seabiscuit, I was like, yes, it's not that visually striking compared to other movies that we're going to talk about, and this is obviously one of them. Like just the different scenes, the scenery, like that final fight out in the garden where it's all snowy, like
beautiful,
visually amazing, right? Yeah. And so when you think of Best Picture as a whole, that comes into it. And I know you can't have a horse race in a scene like that, but like this is something that this has that Seabiscuit doesn't have. I mean, Uma Thurman's an amazing lead in it.
Incredible.
And just the pace it goes, right? Like this was definitely one of the stronger ones for me.
Okay.
Oh man.
What I do want to have a conversation with you one day. I have never understood the love of Jackie Brown.
I love it.
So yeah, like I would love to have that talk.
That's a very complex conversation because it's an Elmore Leonard adaptation, and that goes into my opinion that sometimes Tarantino needs to have a little bit of a balance against his sensibilities, and I would argue he's kind of lost me in the last couple of years. I know some people love everything that he does. but I really love his focus in on somebody else's world and language and applying his sensibilities to it. It's a really good interpretation of that book of Rum Punch, and I adore Max Cherry as a character, and I love Jackie Brown as a character. And so there's a lot of authentic feelings that I get from that movie that I don't get from his other movies because they're operating in kind of a cinema space. Like I said, Kill Bill's a fairy tale. Jackie Brown's real. Those characters are real. And I would say even Pulp Fiction operates in that space, in a heightened cinema space. Jackie Brown's the only one that stands out to me that he really did apply something really authentic and human.
And you're not alone. Like when you have conversations with Quentin Tarantino fans online, Jackie Brown is always at the top. And I was like, man, I've never gotten that. And I did read all of his work, which made me appreciate him even more, because I think he's a stellar writer on the page, not a novelist. That novel for Once Upon a Time was not great. But I'm trying to be more positive. But I think with myself, I like his first stuff, and I do agree with you. I really like True Romance just because somebody else took the helm and was able to cut him down a little bit. And Pulp Fiction, I think, is a masterpiece. I think I would like Quentin Tarantino a lot more if he just focused on what he can do better than anybody else, which is pulp, right? Which is, I think when it comes to Kill Bill, I really like Lady Snowblood better. I like what influenced him better.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. I love Lady Snowblood. I adore Lone Wolf and Cub. You know, all those very violent vengeance stories from Asia that he devoured and he ingested and then kind of vomited onto the screen in what I think is a very Americanized, glorious interpretation. It's a very Quentin Tarantino interpretation, and so, but I agree. I agree with you. I do love where he got it from.
Yeah, and I think that's just my kind of thing about Quentin Tarantino, where I'm like, I wonder where the line of mimicry happened. Like, I love the fact that Quentin Tarantino exists. I love the fact that we said that we didn't want to get the South Korea cinema if he wasn't the one pushing for it. I think Quentin Tarantino does amazing things for film and everything. And then when it comes to his filmmaking, I feel like every time I go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Hateful Eight, all these films, especially in his later end, I feel like I'm watching Quentin Tarantino play with cinema in a room all by himself and make himself happy first. And as an audience member, he could take me or leave me. And so when it came to Kill Bill Volume 1, I was like, okay, you got me super excited for Volume 2. Was that just a 2-hour trailer for what the story that I'm about to get into as far as the first movie goes? Because Andy didn't ask me, but Volume 2 was the better of the two films as far as storyline and everything goes.
I think that's very fair. It is interesting getting invited into somebody's playground and whether you're going to respond to it, because clearly a lot of people have responded to Tarantino's his playground, whether he's orchestrating horrendous vengeance, violence onto KKK members and, slave owners in Django, using a flamethrower onto, unsuspecting Charlie Manson cultists. People enjoy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Nazis.
Or that. Or that as well. Because the Nazi one is the easiest one to digest. I mean, there is such a catharsis, a historical catharsis that I think people want in order to enact a cinematic vengeance on Nazis. It's one that makes the most sense. I think that's why Inglourious Basterds hangs so positively, amongst his fans or people who digest his work.
I think the first 20 minutes of Inglourious Basterds is some of the best filmmaking of all time. And I follow Shoshana's storyline in that film because I love Quentin Tarantino when he's subtle, when he's small. I think when it comes to the Brad Pitt, and he was like, oh, I really wanted Adam Sandler for The Bear. I was like, why? That part of the storyline to me is so Americanized that I was like, just get back to the Shoshana.
That's his Dirty Dozen. That is the Americanized version. That's his Dirty Dozen who's going to get the job done.
And I just don't know if he's doing that because he that's what entertains him, or he's too worried to lean into the quiet parts. But he's Quentin Tarantino, and you listen to him in interviews, I don't think he's scared of anything.
No, he gets fixated on what he loves. His two operatic works that work for me are Kill Bill. In both of their chapters, I think that they fulfill each other in interesting ways, and I think Inglourious Bastards refined it. And but you see the interplay of both of those worlds.
I'm going to go see the 10th film, no matter what. He's a fun kind of director to follow along with, but we'll see.
We'll see.
I don't know.
But it's on the list, so we could be taking away an Oscar from the end of a series to a movie at the beginning of a series.
Maybe.
So
Could be. Yeah. I mean, see how you guys vote for it. Here's one that's a tough sell, but I'm going to try. And that is The Corporation. We talked about documentaries earlier.
I'm just kidding.
There was,
yeah, I'll throw in a boo as well.
No. Keep going, bro.
So the thing about it is, I didn't think about throwing in docs until you brought up The Fog of War, which was a great watch and was
so good.
Very tough too. Like it's another one where you're following the lead and you're like, should I hate this guy? And it all depends on how you feel about it. So then I watched Capturing the Freedmans, and that felt really icky. And then I watched The Corporation, and this might just be a niche pick because I am essentially, I would say, I have anarchy in my blood for how society is currently set up. Mm-hmm. And I think this documentary points to something that was a problem back in the day. And 22 years later, we are still dealing probably even worse so with the negative effects, especially after fucking COVID and profit margins went through the roof. For anybody that doesn't know, The Corporation is a documentary, a Canadian documentary. It's all about how the corporations were giving the illusion that they are American citizens. And if you were to diagnose them as a person, if you were diagnosed them as a person,
traits,
it would turn into the person. Corporation would be a psychopath, and I think that is on point. It's not like it was a film ahead of its time. It defined its time. It dissected the unchecked power of multinational corporations with clarity, evidence, urgency. I was taking notes through it all because it was things that I wanted to look up and look into further. It was presented in chapters, and every chapter presented a new horror from a new direction, a new angle, from things that were problems that are too big for one person to solve to problems like the media. They interviewed newscasters who were like, we couldn't run this story because we were shut down by the corporations. And in that, I don't think we were having the same conversation of Fox News versus CNN back in the day, but that presented the problem of if corporations are in charge of the media, you cannot be combative toward the corporation is what I want to say, because the media will turn on you. You cannot be combative toward politicians because the corporation will turn on you. It was corporate overlords that the documentary was presenting. And I was like, man, this is an important piece. And maybe it's just me who sits here stewing in my bed every day about being like,
has the documentary ever won Best Picture?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't even think has been nominated.
No,
and that's why I was surprised by it.
And that's why, because animated films have been nominated for Academy Awards and international features have been nominated for Academy Awards. I will say that I have a lot of emails out for interviews. And one of them is I was like, just come on and answer this question of why documentaries are not allowed, because I'm sure they can run for a week in LA in a theater.
Right.
And I'm sure they tick much of the other boxes, but for whatever reason, and documentaries, are some of the most important filmmaking that is released every single year. Another episode that was presented to me was to take another look at District 9. And I was like, that was the same year as The Cove. And The Cove, to me, opened up so many eyes about fisheries and such. Yep. But The Corporation, The Fog of War, I would also, I was like, I'm not going to make my whole list documentaries, but The Fog of War I would equally say, go watch that. And then.
Yeah, I'm going to rewatch that. Because that wasn't on the list, and I didn't realize that was the same year. But that's a phenomenal documentary as well.
So if you want to present Fog of War over The Corporation, I'll hold your hand to have that fight. But The Corporation, to me, sang to my 2009 black heart of no bailouts, burn it all down, let's start over.
Yeah. And then you're talking about your anarchist views towards corporations, things like that. It's got like an all-star lineup of people on it, like Noam Chomsky, Howard Zinn. So like it's got some great minds on it too. But I guess like for me, maybe I'm stuck on the fact that it's a documentary too, and I'm just not used to that being in the conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I took a documentary course in college. And I'm actually really thankful I did that, because I had assumptions about the genre versus what the possibility of the genre could be. And it's interesting because I think even just looking at the multitude of documentaries that came out that year are the ones that we're like talking about. The Corporation versus Capturing the Freedmans versus Fog of War. One's a personal, subjective look back on someone's role in a huge historical event and a very controversial historical event, and the emotions that that person has in looking back. And I think that this is why I think Fog of War works better for me. Is I took a Vietnam course in high school, and I didn't have to take it. I was already in AP government, and the same teacher was doing a Vietnam history course, and I was like, you know what, I'm interested. And so I took it, and much to he kept praising me. He's like, Kyle doesn't even have to be here. He's doing 2 classes. And I was like, well, I'm just interested. I had more of a collegiate mindset. I wanted to learn. I was curious about it. And we took the course, and then we watched Fog of War. And I have to say, after learning about all of, from the Tet Offensive, from the early stages of France and how they got involved first, and then we came to France's aid, just going through the whole history, and then to watch that. And Robert McNamara was a huge part, a huge advocate of going there, a huge part of the politics of going in there, and for him to have this regret, and it's like, and again, it's the fog of it is regret. And to watch as he exposes exactly what the reality was going on of what it's very matter of fact, but it's also very personal. And I think that movie is so sensational to watch. It's emotional. It's very well articulated. How they do the interview footage and counterbalance it with archival is very interesting. Just these 3 movies show you the variety, and I think that's why it's so difficult to digest for people. Some people have an idea of what a documentary should be, and Fog of War is not it, and The Corporation is, or Capturing the Freedmans might be more of what people expect of like their true crime documentaries today, but it also skews that definition as well. There is such a freedom to that genre, to that specific presentation, that you could watch Harlan County, USA from the 70s or watch Tarnation from the late 90s, and they examine things from a very similar standpoint in archival footage and information objectivity, but then it can blend. And so I think it's difficult for people to digest documentary. I think that all across the board, we have different expectations of the genre. We have different ideas of what we need to get out of it. Is it information or is it emotion? Is it to know a person or is it to know a time period? And so I think documentary is very complex, and that's why I think it's harder for people to get unanimously on board with what is a good documentary or what's a great documentary, because it's all going to speak maybe to particular sensitivities, particular ideology, particular interest, and I think it's just difficult. I would argue that Fog of War is a great film. It's a great film. It just happens to be a documentary.
What do you think about The Corporation?
Oh, well, I mean, I think The Corporation, and this is me showing my bias to what I prefer in a documentary. And again, this is why we're all going to have maybe different feelings. I think The Corporation should have been almost like a mini series, and each of its points, not only in the psychoanalysis, but each of its points as they build on that psychoanalysis, whether it's wage theft or whether it's privatization of water, you get into these chapters that are digestible, but it is a very long documentary. I think even its original cut is like 250, like 2 hours, 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's dense content where it could be a whole mini series for sure.
And I think, and this is what I love about what the potential of a documentary is get me into the information, but then give me the personal. And it's doing it, but not at the extent. I want an hour of maybe the privatization of water, and I get to know these people, and I get to know that struggle, and it's a piece of this puzzle. The corporation is a very large project, and kudos to them to distill it into what is a digestible 2 hours, 20-minute cut that I saw. I respect its aims. I don't completely agree with all of its points. I'm a very complicated political person, but I'm not against a lot of the issues that they bring up, from environmental to sweatshops to privatization of water. There's a lot of complex things here that I can get mounted on. It's a hopeful movie. I will give it that. There's a lot of things to digest, but it's hopeful in the end. And I think that that's a positive thing, especially when you unload like that onto people. You have to walk away going, well, maybe I can make a difference. They made a difference here. They made a difference here. They stopped it here. It's possible.
Has anyone seen the sequel? I saw that there was a sequel.
Oh, I have not. No,
I didn't even know. 22 years later.
It's called the New Corporation.
New
Corporation. I wonder what that's about. But it's funny because both of the films, Fog of War and The Corporation, were separated by like bookmarks or chapters.
Yeah.
Because the Fog of War was the 11 lessons of the life of war.
It has Robert McNamara. He is your orator. He's your anchor. And I think that's why it works for me. I was like, oh, he's such a complicated historical figure in a very complicated time. And to get that, and to get someone to be so honest with you.
Yeah, that was the surprising part. But there were parts where like the corporation is psychopath. There was some sociopath, and that I mass murdered, and it's like, wow, what are we talking about here?
the separation that you have to have. That's hard.
Talking about shell of people. Let's talk about our next film, Lost in Translation, which was director Sofia Coppola. In 2003, Sofia Coppola gave us a quiet, aching meditation on loneliness and unexpected connection. Man, this film, I love this film. Lost in Translation follows Bob and Charlotte, two strangers adrift in Tokyo as they form a fleeting but meaningful bond. It was only Coppola's second feature. Arguably, to me, it's her best still, and it earned her an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, plus nominations for Director, Actor, and Picture. Weirdly, Sofia Coppola only became the third woman ever nominated for Best Director in 2003. This was shot largely guerrilla style on location in Tokyo with a budget of maybe $4 million. And I think what I loved the most about kind of like the backstory, or I guess trivia you could call it, is that Sofia Coppola wrote this film knowing she wanted Bill Murray in the role. And I think Bill Murray knocked it out of the park. I actually can't still see Bill Murray as anything but his role in this film. And for whatever reason, it's a love story with no meet cute, really, no romantic involvement. It's an older man and a young woman, which usually skeeves me out, but it doesn't. It feels comfortable. It feels lived in. It feels like two people under a warm blanket in front of a fireplace, just trying to find connection. And it works on so many levels, and I can't figure it out. Lee always talked about, he would have a saying when talking about Scorsese or any of the people that he really admired, which was like, I just don't understand how they can do that. And when it comes to Sofia Coppola and Lost in Translation, I don't know how she did it, but man, did she knock it out of the park for this film.
Yeah, this was a really great rewatch. I loved this one before, rewatched it again, loved it again. And yeah, I looked up how, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you may know more than me, like on top of kind of doing it guerrilla style, like they didn't use lighting in a lot of the stuff too, right? So like whatever how it looked was how it looked when they shot it. So I thought that was just really cool, and just the backdrop of Tokyo as far as visuals in this movie, and like the whole culture of Japan, which I remember when originally seeing this, I didn't know much about the culture of Japan, so that was a huge thing. Yeah, just like as we're talking about things that make a whole movie, the mood and the tone are great. Like the music that goes along in the movie is phenomenal.
Fantastic
I mean,
score,
even to Bill Murray singing Roxy music more than this, which is a great song in itself. And yeah, it's a unique It's a unique chemistry. Like I get what you're saying. Like usually that kind of age gap would be more cringe, but like I think it's done as well as it can, so it doesn't feel that way because there's so much to it. There's the build to them actually interacting with each other, which takes a decent time into the movie for it to happen. So those were my initial thoughts.
I think, like you said, like I think the characterization, they're not hungry sexually or wanting a physical connection with anybody, which is something that we rarely see in Hollywood. Hollywood is like filled with just horny people just trying to get into bed with each other or conquer each other, bunch of conquerors. And I think when it comes to Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson in this film, you never get that. They're just
two lonely people.
Yeah.
Just two really lonely people and there's so much energy going on in the background, but they're lonely, which is like such a contrast.
Have either of you been to Japan?
I have not.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's equal, like Hong Kong and Taiwan.
I mean, it could be similar. I've only been to Tokyo. I've been to Kyoto and Tokyo, and only recently. And it really opened my eyes to... I loved this movie before. I think I love it even more now, having been to the place, been to the location, and experienced a very specific social dynamic that... Because clearly, as an outsider, and Scarlett and Bill, as in their characters, are outsiders in this country. They are not necessarily, they're not necessarily rejected, but to be embraced is something that's missing. And she's not being embraced in her relationship. She's left in kind of a coldness. She's adrift. She's isolated, and he's isolated. He's kind of he's pseudo famous. People kind of recognize him on pictures. He's doing commercials here and there, but there's not a lot of interaction between them. And even though I went with some people and we were able to communicate, my goodness, it's not just a language barrier. The culture barrier of Japan is that if you are not there, I mean, people are on their phones, they have their headphones in. You're not supposed to speak on the subway. In fact, I learned that very quickly when we were heading to the hotel. We were just kind of talking about a plan of action on the subway because we're in a new country. We need to know which way we're going, what exit we're going. And someone politely but passive aggressively got out of their chair and walked away from us. And I realized, I made a cultural social faux pas. And there's something very distancing about that. There's like this chasm that you cannot necessarily cross. In this movie, and I don't use this word lightly, and I seldom use this word for a lot of movies, I do think it's a perfect movie. It's hard to come by. I don't think that there is a misstep in this movie at all. I don't think in the framing. I don't think in its intention if it's framing. There are analysis videos about how the framing, about how he's off kilter, he's off to the side, but as they come in, they start to balance each other out. The fact that you can use that as like a template of a visual framing and language to suggest the thematic journey of these two characters and their loneliness and their isolation, to have a unification and a balance between them, that they're able to do that cinematically, they're able to do that tonally with the music and with the performance, with how it's lit. This is a perfect movie, and I don't think that there is a piece that could be enhanced. I don't think that there could be a piece taken away. It's so beautiful, and I think and it goes even beyond just like I said, I loved it before. Before, I understood isolation. I understood loneliness. I understood being, adrift amongst people and not being understood and not necessarily finding human interaction where it was a necessity. It is a necessity between us. And I think that this movie is a beautiful ode to that. And it culminates in that wonderful, beautiful, lovely secret between two people. And you don't get to know. You don't get to know what they said to each other. You don't get to be part of it because they found each other in the human interaction necessity, and there's a beauty in that. And I love that it's not sexual. I love that it's friendship. And maybe there's attraction. Who knows? It's nebulous. It's ambiguous. We all have very complex feelings when we meet people. And I think that this movie is gorgeous, beautiful, lovely, perfect. So yeah.
Best performance of Bill Murray's career, in my opinion.
Hands down.
I can't think of anything else that.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's Scarlett Johansson, so there's got to be a little bit of an attraction. You don't look at Scarlett Johansson and be like,
why not?
Yeah. Sean Penn won this year for Mystic River.
I was a Bill Murray stan for this year, and I still think he deserved it. I know he was upset that he did not get his Oscar this year, and honestly, I totally agree. He was exceptional. Like it's such a good use of his sarcastic persona, but it's done as because he's putting on such a front, and it starts to uncover what is underneath it all, the insecurities, the loneliness. I think it's wonderfully cast. I mean, the fact that she had him in mind shows you exactly what she wanted to do. This movie shows you that it is a divine production. She knew exactly what she wanted to say. She knew exactly the themes of her city, her characters, her visualizations, and they all come together. It's a beautiful movie.
Who'd you say won Best Actress, bro?
It was Sean Penn for Mystic River.
Well, he won the BAFTA, so Love Actually couldn't take that away from him.
Oh no.
I mean, this was also the year of Jack Sparrow, which I'm sure was what everybody was tuning into the Academy Awards for.
Oh yeah. That's a good performance. I will not take anything away from that performance. I will say it got a little overextended, but I do remember the first time, that it's a good time. It's a good time.
Well, it's one of my favorite Bill Murray performances of all time, and not to bring up another Christmas movie, but Scrooged.
Right.
This to me feels like an epilogue to Scrooged. It's just a man tired.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, perfect movie, huh?
Well, yeah. You haven't said that much, bro. What are your thoughts?
I think I know what he whispers in her ear. I feel like I should know what he whispers in her ear. I feel like this movie is so well choreographed that you could go back and see an inside joke. It's got to be an inside joke somewhere in the film that he whispers to her to remind her of. It's like, we'll always have Paris, right?
Yeah.
It's something like that line. And I feel like every time I watch it, I forget to look for it. And then at the end, I'm like, next time I watch this, I'm going to be looking for that inside joke, like something in the karaoke bar or something. Yeah. And it's just one of those things that intrigues you. It's one of those, to bring up memories of murder, that last shot where Bong Joon-ho is like, he is looking at the killer. He knows the killer is watching this movie. That's the lead character staring into the killer's eyes that is still out there in the world. And I was like, man, I don't know if I wanted to have read that and just interpreted on my own what that last look meant, where I don't know if I ever want to know what he whispers in his ear, because I think the unknowing and the yearning that goes along this entire movie, to me, it ages well. It ages with me. At the older I get, the tireder I get, the more that I'm secluded in my own social anxiety and just don't want to interact with the world, but also want to find a connection. Lost in Translation, when I pick it up every 3 or 4 years, I'm like, I get this even more now, which is crazy, because I'm getting further and further away from all my youthful endeavor movies, all my Stand By Me's, which we talked about, Kyle. It's more nostalgic in the past, and now I'm an old man shaking the fist at all these youngsters that won't leave their screens and go walk on railroad tracks every once in a while. Lost in Translation, I think, speaks to you as you get older and older. Yeah. So. But I mean, just saying, like, perfect movie, I'm like, all right, well, let's see if there's one of these two remaining movies might knock down Lost in Translation on Kyle's list. And one of them is Irreversible, which probably has a French pronunciation, which I don't. Yeah. No? Irreversible.
Irreversible.
Which, damn it, like, this is like Capturing the Freemans. The last thing I like to watch on film is rape. Yeah. And this one has the worst rape scene, I think, of all time.
Yeah. I think it had so many walkouts at Cannes that I think it was just continuous. Like, people couldn't take it. And honestly, it's rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is just horrific.
So Andy,
who added this to the list?
Oh, that
would be me.
That guy.
Okay, well, you're the guy who
I had Seabiscuit.
You're the guy. Oh,
I'm sitting here like,
whoa,
sunshine and rainbows and horses.
The last episode I was on, you added Perfume which was pretty weird, man. So let's not put it all on Kyle here, Spro.
Okay, good point.
You may get a sea biscuit every now and then, but I mean, yeah, it was intense. I glad I didn't watch it with my wife because she gets motion sickness, and I feel like it's the way it was shot, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I actually thought the way the different kind of chapters, if you will, were shot like makes sense in it, but like, oh man, it was intense. Like the one where it was flashing a bunch too, but like visually, aside from the brutal scene that was mentioned a little bit ago, like visually it's shot really well. The graphic content obviously is what it is there, but the reverse storytelling is, I thought, done really well in it, where like it really like makes the end part seem like kind of mundane and like just like normal stuff. I'd be curious to watch it the other way around and see how
they do have a cut. They do have a cut that does it in order. Yeah.
But this was one where like, yeah, like once you get past the trauma of that part, like I'd never heard of this film. I'd never seen it, but like I was glad that I watched it. I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry that I added it on the list. I added it because when I think about, and it's kind of it's a weird entry because it came out in France in 2002, but it came out in America in 2003, and so I've always associated it as a 2003 movie because that's around when I saw it, and it puts a permanent impression in your brain when you see it. It's just completely unforgettable and probably all the wrong ways. It's probably a movie that people would be reviled to have sat through, to have experienced. But here's the interesting thing about it, and this is why I added it, and why I added this one. I emphasize this one versus Dogville, which I also really like, which also has rape in it. It's also brutal. I find that I'm a bit nostalgic for provocation. I think we live in an era that doesn't really have provocation anymore. We are so insulated. We're so ingrained in our bubbles and our spheres that not seldom does something enter our dialogue from our ideologies, our sensibilities, our moralities, that we then are confronted. We're confronted with a whole different like expectation, a different formula, a different idea that gets us to think about something a little differently. So Gaspar Noé, who made this movie, and it is a true provocation, and every single one of his movies is a provocation. He is one of those kinds of filmmakers. It doesn't often work for me. His love is very pornographic. Climax has a thrilling opening scene. It's one of the it's so sensational. It's done in one shot. It's this designed dance sequence, and it's done with one shot. It's so interesting that he does these things this way. It recontextualizes how you digest cinema. And so this one could be said to be a gimmick, that it's just backwards. You know, it comes out a couple years after, or a year really, in France after Memento, or 2 years after Memento. And it does this kind of idea. It's just going to go backwards. But there's something about the theme of the movie about when you experience horrific events and you try and recollect them and you try and put the pieces back together. That's what the movie's doing. It results in a failure. They go out to seek vengeance and they fail. They just randomly kill some poor sap who just happens to be in this particular gay bar that they're trying to find whoever was responsible. And they never do. And they go back, and it's because of, in response of this horrific event, this horrific rape and murder, like it just completely obliterates this beautiful woman. And the further you go back, is there peace in trying to put all the pieces back together? Or are you just going to now come forward and experience it all again? And that's not pleasant. I'm not saying it's pleasant, but I find that movie sticks with you because of it. And when she pulls out when the pregnancy test, that's worse than what the rape feels like. It's a brutal movie. I apologize for having you guys watch it. But I do find it to be a sensational provocation, and I think it works.
Yeah, I felt like I had to survive it, but like in the
Yes,
same
yeah.
instance, I'm glad that I finally watched it because I've seen it on plenty of lists, and I had to actually, I put it on my list for my students coming up this summer for a film studies class, and it's high school students. So then I was like, nope, taking this right back off. I don't think high school students need to see it. And Memento is one of those films, man, I even loved reading the script, and I would like to pick up this one to see how this one was designed. There's something about when we're talking about this rape scene, for the audience that doesn't know, it is a 9-minute unbroken scene of just watching Monica Bellucci
Be brutalized. Yeah.
like to the point where
But if I'm remembering it correct from when I watched it, like you see the end result of it first, like when she's on the stretcher, right?
Yes.
yeah.
Which is a shock in itself. Like before you even get to that horrible part, like that's a jolt seeing that.
Yeah.
It gives you the promise of what's going to end up to her before you see it, and then as you're experiencing it, you just want to pull away because you already know what's going to happen.
This like disorienting sound design. This movie just made you uncomfortable from beginning to end. Like, and that's where I will say, like, I always hate rape on film, but a lot of the ones that I like has that vengeance to it, right? But it's told chronologically. It's like I Spit on Your Grave, right? Or The Hills Have Eyes, or The Last House on the Left. It's always these films where like the rape happens at the beginning, and then you watch the rapist get their just desserts. Yeah,
karmic consequence. Yeah.
And so, but it's always funny to me, like when you say like, well, so many people walked out of it at film festivals, and I'm like, but that I have only experienced, Austin Film Festival and Cleveland Film Festival, but you go to these films to experience these other movies. Like, I don't think I would ever walk out of a movie at a film festival. I have not walked out of a movie yet, got plenty close in like Batman and Robin, but I have never walked out of a film, and I can't imagine going to a film festival and be like, I'm going to
It's performance. Well, I can. It's performance. They're telling you they're displeased. They're making it a statement. That's all they're doing.
So exploitative.
Yeah.
And some people argued that this movie was a tough watch. Probably will never do it again, but I'm glad that I did it for this. And it does stay with you. It lingers. I don't know what you said. What was your theme that you brought up?
Oh, for it is it's when you have a tragedy, you try and piece it all back together to understand it. That's the process of the movie. That's how I've interpreted it.
Copy. Mine was like, if I had to give it a theme, it would be, I mean, obviously time is in there because of how it's told.
Destroys everything is what they say. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, time heals, time
destroys.
Agreed with you on that one. Then we got one more left to go. And when I talk about films that I would have loved to see in the theater, I would have loved to see Master and the Commander, The Far Side of the World in the theater. And I knew this from the jump. As soon as they put you in the ship with all the ropes and the sails and the storm and the wind and the sea salt and everything, I was like, I'm not doing this I'm doing this a disservice by watching it in my living room, because my sound cannot get as high as I want it to go, and my screen cannot be as big as I want it to be. Just real brief, epic in scale and meticulous in detail, Master Commander dropped viewers into the rigging of a British warship in 1805. This historical adventure is about leadership, obsession, and the bond between science and warfare. It was a major awards contender, 10 Oscar nomination, which was just one short of the Best Picture winner of Lord of the Rings, and it only won 2. It was based on Patrick O'Brien's Aubrey Maturin series of novels, filmed partly in the same tank as Titanic in Baja, California, which Titanic gets shit on. I don't mind it as a movie.
Well, it's great. It's a great movie. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. Okay. It's a great movie.
Kyle approved. It's got Russell Crowe, who I think this is his best performance. This is coming off his Gladiator, so he's at his peak. But I think this one went under the radar for the most part as far as audiences are concerned. But it did win cinematographer Russell Boyd an Oscar for his work on the film. To me,
peak acting, not peak physicality. He put on some lbs for Master and Commander.
Yeah. To me, Master and Commander, it surprises you because it takes its time as far as a warship movie goes. But in the same instant, the battle scenes are
exceptional.
Pirates in the Caribbean is what we all saw, but it doesn't hold a candle to what you would see in this film. And in the same instance, it's got that intelligence to it. You got Paul Bettany, who is doing his best as a foil to Russell Crowe's determination, who just wants to see the Galapagos Islands and study all the animals there. But in the same instance, he has such a vulnerability to him that you feel when he is told no, that they're not going to go there. And then when he is given his chance to do it, and then you feel that decision that he must make when he has everything that he could possibly want, but he has his loyalty to his captain and to his ship and has to leave it all behind so he can deliver the news. This film was such a treat to watch. I think it was after watching this film that I was like, Kyle has a point, that Return of the King did have some competition that year. And then I went to work and just started watching everything.
I'm just going to come straight out. This movie's a masterpiece. I adore this movie.
That's the second time you have said that on this episode. There was 2 masterpieces in 2003.
I said that it was perfect.
Perfect. My bad.
I do think this is a master work from Peter Weir, who is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. He gets put into a particular box of like the prestige Hollywood, mostly because he did Dead Poets Society, and yet you look at his early career, which is a good movie. But if you look at his early works from like Picnic at Hanging Rock and Last Wave, these like ethereal surrealist works, and then he does Mosquito Coast or Gallipoli, Truman Show. This is a great filmmaker. And Master and Commander is the second to last film he gives us. He takes a 7-year break and then gives us The Way Back, which is fine. It was an okay movie, and he has not made a movie since, and he's still alive. Master and Commander is a blend of what makes just a movie tick in all the right ways. It's thrilling because of its action. It's so lived in, it's breathed in. It, as you described, with there's the fog, there's the sounds of the ropes. It's how these men are going about in their community and with each other, their dependency on each other. And then at the core of the movie, it's about friendship. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful male friendship. And again, I know this one gets obviously there's a lot of revisionist praise that is put upon Master and Commander, and a lot of people are like, well, it's a lot of men. And granted, take that then with what I'm coming to it. I am a man, and I responded to this movie when I saw it then and every time I see it now. The beauty of their friendship, and it's because they're so different from each other. One's a brutal man, one's looking at the world in a sense of battle, and the other's inquisitive and tender and wants to explore, but they're both exploring the world in their 2 different ways, and then they communicate with each other through music and not necessarily through words. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. It's a sensational movie. It's a majestic, thrilling, lived in, breathed in world that is brought to life in every bit of it, through the cinematography, the production design, its orchestration. It's a masterpiece. I adore this movie. I think it might be the best movie of that year. You know, there's a lot of movies and a lot of different feelings and a lot of different directions it takes you, which is hard to like contend with. But this movie solidified itself in my mind. I do think it's one of if not his best. Russell Crowe's performance is so good, and it's in how he's able to be commanding and brutal and efficient, but then he speaks with his eyes, like how he uses his eyes to say something, how he's looking at something, he's paying attention, he's observing. It is such a great performance. Paul Bettany counterbalances it so beautifully. It's a lot of men It's Napoleonic Wars, 1805. That's what it's going to be. And I respond to it in all the right ways that I think you need to respond to it. And, if you were like, well, I see the beauty of it and I see that as a really grand production, but the friendship or the maleness of it didn't speak to me. But it did speak to me because I am male and because there is something about male friendship that I don't think it's focused in on. It's all very jabby, and we insult each other, we bring each other down, but then it's all about love. But here there's this really platonic connection between these two and how they see the world, their differences in how they see the world and what they can bring together to understand it. It's beautiful movie. Sorry.
Yeah, so you said you didn't see this one in the theater, right?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so
I did. It was gorgeous.
This was like back in the day, just seeing it at Blockbuster, not knowing anything about it, and putting it in and being pleasantly surprised. And obviously rewatching it more than held up. So a lot of the things like Kaya was saying, I mean, obviously the relationship between Crow and Bettany is the meat of the movie and amazing. But like it focuses on like leadership under pressure and different hierarchy, like their hierarchies. One's the leader and they still have this friendship and the sacrifices. So I thought it was great. And like visually, as you said, like you wanted to hear the ropes and things like that. Like it made a lot of the battle scenes, which were not like physical fighting scenes till the end, really interesting. And it's not like it was heavy in traditional action, right? So the way it was shot and it was vivid and it made that really interesting. So this was a great rewatch.
I think also when you said lived in, like one of the things, so I watched this for this episode. I was told to watch it when I was having to write a pirate script. And now I need to go back to the pirate script and fix a whole lot of shit because it is nothing compared to this. But what I really liked about it, which you never saw, I think, before, was it was factual about the warfare and how slow it is, how you will see a ship and it takes days in order to either them catch up to you or you catch up to it. It's not this, not to bring it up again, but Pirates of the Caribbean, oh, they just snuck up on us because of such and such. This dealt with the fact of like, oh, we saw them, we'll meet them in 2 days, so what do we do until then? We just kind of prepare and play and watch the deck and do other things. So
well, and it's such a beautiful series of books. Like he wrote so many. Patrick O'Brien, he wrote like 20 of them, and I think 21 technically, but one's unfinished. And how he observed these worlds in a sense of history, it was factual, it was objective, but it was trying to understand a layer of people within that objectivity. It kind of comes back to like, how Seabiscuit was trying to do this, but Peter Weir, took on that assignment and really put us into the totality of their reality and how they respond to it, what their instincts are in that world, and then we come to understand these characters as a product of that history and that world and what's going on. They're being shaped by it while we get to watch them being shaped, and it is a masterfully done adaptation. It's a masterfully done execution. It's just a wonderful story about, as you said, leadership under pressure, but also friendship under dire and different circumstances. It's there's a lot of universality, even though there's a very specific notion of history and time and place. But the universal themes of friendship and leadership and camaraderie and all of it kind of is bolstered by this story and by the acting. It's just gorgeous. I love this movie. I'm a big advocate for it.
Great. I think we're ready to move on to our point totals, unless anybody has anything to say about any of the films, 21 films that were put on a list.
No, I feel like I've exhausted your audience already, but Spro knows this. He keeps inviting me back and I'll just keep talking. Like I do 2 hours on one movie. So
yeah, you're a wealth of information and your vocabulary is amazing. I feel like you're taking the words out of my brain. And so then I'm fumbling for my own. I do think it's interesting. You did bring up how irreversible is provocative, right? And you said that we're not doing that anymore.
We don't.
And I wonder if it's because we're so tired of the provocation of everything we're getting from our smartphones, the media, our daily lives. Like it's all, I feel like people are saying AI is going to take over and we're not going to know what's real and what's not. I was like, well, I'm just going to shut off my digital devices when I feel like that's starting to happen. Because nowadays you just get sucked in, and you get sucked in with hate clicks, and you know what's happening. You know, you're seeing these stories, or people are putting things on Instagram just to make you even angrier. And so you do kind of check out and you're like, give me my media to make me better digest my day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we are casually, slowly being desensitized by, social media, by the onslaught of what is just kind of like directly being inputted into our brains. I also think that because of algorithms, and to speak on social media, because of algorithms, we have our worlds kind of tailor-made for us. If you don't want to see something that is a provocation to you, that you don't necessarily agree with in a lifestyle, like if you're like one of those people who doesn't want drag queens reading to your kids at a library, you probably have an algorithm that doesn't show you any drag queens in any sort of in any positive light, whether it's in a sense of performance or in a sense of themselves, in their own community as is. And so you're not being exposed to things that you don't want to be exposed to. And so provocation needs to enter your arena, not necessarily forcefully, but it also needs to enter your arena where you're almost willing to you're like, curious to digest it, and then it turns itself, and then you're being confronted with something that you didn't want to be confronted with. We're just in our bubbles. We're just communicating with who we want to communicate to. We're being shown what we want to see. Provocation's harder to enter our lives.
Well, like I said, I wanted to have the difficult conversation, and I think we did. And hopefully we did it well. So here we go. We talked about the films, and let's get to our top 5 picks. I will give out corresponding points. Like your 5th pick gets 1 point. Your top pick gets 5 points. And we will see where we land with this. Does everybody have their list ready?
I believe so.
Mine changed throughout the course of this, but I believe I'm set.
I'm kind of fucked with my 5th pick. My top 4 is there.
I changed my 2nd pick just based on conversation.
I guess these rankings will be telling what's better, a perfect film or a masterpiece.
That's what I'm thinking over there.
It's hard. It's hard for me. It puts a lot of mounting pressure on me. I have to distinguish between the two.
Okay, I got my 5th pick, and it's just throwing a bone, really.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, my 5th pick is Kill Bill Volume 1.
Oh, okay. All right.
I can go next. My 5th pick is Love Actually. No. My 5th pick was also Kill Bill Volume 1.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, my 5th is Fog of War.
Oh, wow.
Nice. I was thinking about going back to the OG list and doing Elephant, but I did not. All right, my pick, number 4. A lot of movies entertained us. This movie tried to save us. I'm going Corporation.
Nice.
I thought you were going to say Seabiscuit.
It did. His Seabiscuit saved us in our hearts.
My number 4 is the winner, Return of the King, in the new rankings.
Yeah. All right. My number 4 is Memories of Murder.
Which is Mom in acronym.
Yes, Mom. Mom is my number 4.
That's actually my number 3.
Okay.
Memories of Murder.
My number 3 is Master and Commander.
Oh, then my number 3 is Kill Bill Volume 1.
Nice. So then my number 2 is Master and Commander.
My number 2 is Mom.
Nice. I'm glad you liked it that much.
Yeah, no, I really did.
Great.
So
my number 2. Yeah, what am I going to pick? It's going to be Lost in Translation as my number 2. Yeah.
All right. So my number 1 is Lost in Translation.
Oh, nice.
As is mine. Number 1, Lost in Translation.
Okay. Well, then my number 1's Master and Commander. But now I feel silly. Maybe I should pick Lost in Translation. But I feel like it's going to win anyway with the rankings as is, which I am not against.
So masterpiece does beat perfect movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, because perfect is how I use it, because there are some movies that might not make my top 10, but they might be perfect because they are in essence what they are supposed to be. I think, yeah, it's hard to distinguish. I just don't see any piece being taken away. In fact, some of the movies I respond and are my favorites of particular years are flawed movies. But I like what they're grasping. They're going for this ambition, and they come very close. And I think Master and Commander comes the closest to matching its promise and ambition for what it was trying to do. That's why it holds such a kind of a fondness in my heart for the kind of movie it is. Shouldn't be that tender, shouldn't be that beautiful, and yet it is. It's harsh and brutal, but also beautiful and detailed, and I love that mixture. And so it's masterful in those terms. Lost in Translation, I mean, like, I got to tell you, it's a coin flip on any of the days. I think Lost in Translation being perfect, being masterful, I do think it is her best film. Yeah, it's really just a coin flip at the end of the day, and I think they're both beautiful, wonderful movies, and they speak ultimate truths that I don't think that I think are the kinds of movies that I hold on to every given year, which is why I do a top 25 every year. It's when you get to the top 5, it gets kind of negligible.
What was your top 5 again, Spro?
My top 5?
Yeah.
I had Lost in Translation, Master and Commander, Memories of Murder, The Corporation, and Kill Bill.
So when you started this episode, you said, "Hey, this is my first season on my own, and I have a guest who wants to take it away from Return of the King." And then you didn't even put Return of the King in your top 5.
I did because I wanted to do the honorary Oscar, right, for the whole trilogy.
Okay.
And
I think that's your out.
If we weren't doing it, if we weren't given an honorary Oscar, would it have made your top 5?
Yes.
Okay. Well, where would it have made?
Where would it be? Yeah.
Probably 4.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I watched Return of the King because I watched Fellowship and Two Towers, but Fellowship is always my favorite. And I think we brought it up on this episode. Not doing Battle of the Shire supremely pissed me off because that was one of my favorite parts of the book. And I didn't realize that Peter Jackson didn't like that part, so he just didn't do it.
Just personal.
He just ran out of time.
Personal. No, he does not like it.
And I wish that, well, now that kicked my childhood in the face because I wanted him. I was like, go back and just do the Battle of the Shire as one standalone film. And it ended up being The Hobbit. And I have to watch Lord of the Rings to get the Hobbit taste out of my mouth.
Isn't there another movie coming out?
Amazon's got the rights.
Yeah, they're doing a Gollum thing. I forget what it's called, but yes.
Where do you rank Return of the King as far as like other trilogies, as far as a third movie in a trilogy?
Ooh.
Strong. Because seldom do trilogies hold up. Yeah, it's funny. That is a good question that I didn't answer in my prattling in the beginning. It is the best trilogy, I think, in existence, cinema trilogy. So
I always go back to, and I know it gets discussed a lot, but as a kid, Star Wars was obviously like a huge trilogy, and I thought there was, in my opinion, huge fall off between the second and the third. It's true. Which, like, even though, like, no one said the Return of the King was their favorite of the 3 movies, I don't feel like there's that kind of fall off there. No. It definitely does not. And it's funny because Fellowship is my favorite of them. But if we went back, I don't think it would be my number 1 for that year. So it just shows you that, like, I appreciate it. I appreciate what that series is. I appreciate Peter Jackson's vision for it. I appreciate how he did it. I think it's a thankless task to adapt those books. It's almost an impossibility, and yet he comes the closest. I think they're going to try and do it in our lifetime again, and it just won't work. And I'm glad for it. I'm appreciative of it. If it's deep in your hearts, if it's the best picture of that year, keep it in your heart. That's that's my only thing. You just gotta don't let me take it away from you. Don't pay attention to me. I'm talking about my personal feelings about the movies that spoke to me.
And I will say, when you gave me that question, the third film of a trilogy that stood out of my mind is Die Hard with a Vengeance, because
better than the second one. Better than the second
way
one.
better than the second one, and I think I might have revisited more than the first one.
It's fun. It's super fun. It's very good.
But there's a pretty big drop off then to 4 and 5.
Oh yeah, no, we don't talk about 4 and 5.
There's a 4 and 5. What are you talking about?
Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Russia.
That is a great example though. That's a really good one.
What do you say?
I've drawn a blank right now. I might have to get back to you on that.
Oftentimes the trilogies don't work.
The third Indiana Jones movie.
Oh, great! Very good.
Good example.
Very good trilogy.
Is a good one.
Very good.
Certainly not the third Mighty Ducks movie. I mean, after the Hive winning the Junior Goodwill Games, they just go to high school. I mean, come on.
All right. So the original 5 nominees for Best Picture. Oh, there's a fun fact in this book. It says Super Bowl halftime wardrobe malfunction of Janet Jackson inspires Oscar 5-second tape delay. So there you go for that. The top 5 nominees were The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, who won, Lost in Translation, Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, Mystic River, and Seabiscuit, everybody's favorite horse film. The ones that we picked was Return of the King in last place, in the 5th spot. Kill Bill, Volume 1, 4th spot. Memories of Murder, I was going to say Mom. Memories of Murder in the 3rd spot, Master and Commander in the 2nd spot, and Lost in Translation would be our Best Picture winner. And then Lord of the Rings gets an honorary Oscar for everything. If the Lord of the Rings got the honorary Oscar, then Corporation would have been in our 5th spot.
Mm-hmm.
While we are going to end the show, I do want to give Kyle a chance to talk about I Know Movies and You Don't.
My dying show. I'm just kidding. It's just as we're recording, I've like slowed down. I'm only releasing 1 episode a week as we wrap up season 11. I have high ambitions. My idea is to continue the show, and season 12 probably around when this comes out. I don't know what your release schedule for this, bro, is, but
I'm chaos, my friend.
Yeah,
this is a whirlwind. So I'm thinking this is probably going to be early in the season, just to kickstart. So September, I would say. Well,
so maybe in a couple months you'll start getting season 12, which is the idea is road movies. Spro's been invited, and he's going to talk about, I think, 2 or 3, maybe 4 movies. And road movies is the next study, but we're kind of reducing it, moving around the schedule. I would like it to be one-on-ones this time. That's why it's just going to be Spro and me talking about a particular movie, and that's what it's going to be. But my ambition is to add another show, and that sounds right. I'm slowing it down and trying to like get control of one show, and my answer is just add another show. I'm just going to do a whole other show and complicate my life in that way. But because I haven't figured that out, I'm not going to announce that this time. I'm just saying that's what's percolating. That's what's being designed. I have a great title for it. I have a great idea for a show. And we're going to try and do that where it would be one. I Know Movies comes out on Tuesday and this show comes out on Thursday. That's the ambition. I want to get back to reviewing new movies that would come out on Mondays. So let's just say the design is to maybe have a channel, is to have like a YouTube channel, add cameras, add video, and be a little more continuous as a kind of business. And that's going to take some steps. I don't know if that's going to be fulfilled by January of 2026, but that's the goal.
Good luck, man.
Thanks.
You reminded me of Lee when he was like, I want to do less work. I'm going to do it all by myself. And I was like, wow, that
doesn't make sense. I'm a walking contradiction. Like I feel like I need less work, and yet I want to take on more work. And I'm trying to reinvigorate myself because I've done 11 seasons of a show, and I do 50 episodes a season. So I've done 550 episodes. I've done also half seasons for Patreon because that was something I tried to do. And so there's 50 episodes on that, and then I carried on another show talking about a movie a week, and then we did over 100 episodes for that. And so in the last 5 years, I have self-produced 700 to 750 episodes, And that's exhausting. Like I look back and I'm like, how did I do it? I don't even know. And so I'm reaching a culmination point of trying to reinvigorate myself and find the passion in it again, because I do love doing it. I do love talking about movies. I love dedicating 2 hours of conversation to each particular movie, their history, their time period, what everyone gets out of it. I put a lot of work and effort into it. And so I'm also I got a new job, and so it's been complicated balancing that. I'm also not making enough money in financial burdens and stresses. It's life, and life is all very complicated. And I don't mean to just throw all you're now you and your audience are now my like therapist at the moment. This is just what's going on. I love what I do, and I want to refine the love before I lose it.
For sure. And I dig the fact that there's going to be a lot of movies that I'm going to see just because of your podcast existing. And so I'm so glad that you and I have met in the podcast verse.
Yeah.
And then speaking of which, Andy, I introduced you as an everyman, but the fact that you come prepared and are down to watch all these movies, man, I can't appreciate you enough. How did your soccer season go last year?
We lost more than we won, but we had fun. If we're plugging things, whenever this comes out, we'll probably still be playing Friday nights. So if you're in the Cleveland area, stop by Rocky River Forest, watch my men's 30-plus old soccer team, the Chonky Boys or the Shirt Brothers. I'm on 2 teams now.
Oh, 2 teams.
What
were the names? You said those really fast.
The Chonky Boys and the Shirt Brothers. They're called the Shirt Brothers partly because of a Tim Robinson sketch, but also partly because that we wear the same shirts as the Chonky Boys, because it's like the team got so big that we split into 2. But I play on both. I also want to plug Cozumel on Sperry Road. You can find the old host of this show, Lee, there once a week usually. So if you want to catch up with him, stop by the Cozumel Mexican restaurant on Sperry Road. Sorry, I also coach my daughter's team. My middle daughter is 12, and I coach her team. I did coach my older daughter, who's now 22, but she doesn't play anymore. So I coach as well, which I love.
I have a soccer script about to go out in the world. Would you put eyes on it?
Absolutely.
Oh, nice. One last question that will go in the episode. Gentlemen, is there another award you want to talk about in the future? Another Oscar moment, a movie you just want to dissect? Is there anything that stands out?
Spro, you put this in the email, and I was like, I'm going to think about that question. And I never thought about that question. And I'm trying to think about it. And I don't know, what comes to mind? A lot of Best Picture stuff doesn't go down well for me. Like 2001 is Beautiful Mind, I think. Mm-hmm. I would take that so fast away from that movie. I just can't stand it. But what really
2001 was Gladiator.
No, so 2002. So 2001 release year. So the 2002 ceremony was Beautiful Mind, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I would take that one away, real fast. But I don't often think about performance, and the one that I definitely would like to revisit was, and I don't know if you guys did it already, but was Sean Penn's win for Milk over Mickey Rourke for The Wrestler. That always was egregious to me. I thought Mickey Rourke should have won, and I haven't revisited those movies in a long time. It's been a while, and so maybe that.
What did you do? You had an episode on 2002, didn't you? Because I remember you guys talking about Ali.
Yeah, that was it. We took away Denzel Washington's Training Day to give it to Will Smith for Ali, and then Will Smith acted a fool, and we had to take his away for.
What a bummer.
But that was our Poly Academy series because we felt that Denzel deserved it for Malcolm X over Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman.
Absolutely.
And then Al Pacino deserved it over Art Carney back for Godfather.
100%.
So.
I don't have any specific award. Part of what I like coming on is just being blindsided with something I wouldn't have thought of and diving in. So as you know from my last episode, I don't really watch the Oscars, so it's always fun going back and seeing what won and just diving in.
That's why I love having you on the show. Just a raw opinion. There's a lot of shows out there that say, I know better than the Academy Awards, but then they just pick like their favorite film of the year.
Yeah,
and it's like, you gotta.
That's the joke of my show, is the title is I know movies and you don't. It's just a fucking joke, because that's what everyone's attitude is, that if you're doing a podcast, that's how you think of it. Mm. So it's just a joke. My friend came up with it and I was like, I mean, it's perfect because it's funny. It's funny. Title. Yeah.
I'm only here to learn. But all right. So in closing, look, I want to say it again. Return of the King is a cinematic triumph. But this was never about what the movie achieved. It was about what the Oscar meant. And in 2003, the Academy handed a Best Picture trophy to an entire trilogy, not a single film. If that's what we're doing now, fine, but don't call it a competition. The truth is Return of the King won the award for showing up and finishing strong. But other films that year weren't just finishing, they were starting conversations we're still having. So today we put the ring back in Mount Doom, and we give the Oscar to something that earned it in its own right. Lost in Translation. Now, we did the homework. All you have to do, dear listener, is watch 2 films, Return of the King, without watching Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers. And then you can watch Lost in Translation. Let us know on Instagram at ATakeOnTheAcademy if you liked it, or rip us apart on Reddit at r/ATakeOnTheAcademy if you absolutely disagree. So thanks to Kyle, thanks to Andy, and thanks to you for taking this long hobbity journey with us. I'm Matt Sprosty, and this was A Take on the Academy. See you next time.